Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. Why did I just blank on that? My name is Samaria, and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Miyosha. And today we're reviewing Married at First Sight, season 17, episode 11. But before we
Mhm.
get into that, please make sure that you are subscribed to our channel, give this video a thumbs up, and meet us in the comments to let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Also,
Mhm.
Happy New Year,
Yeah.
because it's a whole new year.
Mhm.
And we'll be back next week with some more AITA stuff. We know that you guys really enjoyed that during Vlogmas. And we did too, to be
We did.
honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll be back with more of that. But let's get MAFS out of the way first.
Yeah.
Let's start
Okay.
with Michael because he's back on our screens.
With a crown.
Okay. I did a poll on Twitter to see if people felt like he came with the crown because that's just who he is, or if the producers probably made him do that. What do you think it was?
I mean, if someone gifted you something and then they left you at the altar, why keep carrying it around? That's not making sense. Now, I do get the vibe that he is eclectic.
Right.
So the crown may match, but show up with a different crown, not the one, where the person left you at the altar. That's not adding up for me.
And why did they need to come to the meeting with the experts? Like,
As a reminder, we know you got left
we
first
already know.
time. Yeah,
Exactly.
I wasn't here for the theatrics of
Yeah.
it.
So
Mm.
81% of the people who answered on Twitter said that the producers made him bring that crown because they thought it would make good
Mm.
TV. And then only
Mhm.
19% felt like, nah, he did it on his own. So there are the
Mm.
results.
The people have spoken. Yeah, so I didn't know about this poll, so this is the first time I'm hearing the results too.
But
Okay.
yeah, so I don't know. How do you feel about them bringing him back with a month left? So is he going to get a shorter marriage? I have questions.
It's giving we're down to one, maybe two couples, and they're desperate to fill the space. I think if all the other couples were still in the running,
Hmm.
they wouldn't have had time in terms of the episodes and how they would air. They would
Yeah.
have to extend the season, and they'd never do that just for one couple. So it's giving space filler. I honestly am not in the mood to go through a whole nother wedding dress shopping,
Yes.
wedding, meeting the parents. I mean, I think we suffered through a lot of it
Hmm.
in the beginning just because we know, okay, they're laying the foundation. But I'm just not here for going through the whole process again. You?
Hmm. No, I'm not here for it either because now we have to meet her family and friends and find out if they're haters and all of that stuff. Yeah, I'm not really interested in it. If they're gonna do that, I guess it wouldn't be fair to her to just show her coming down the aisle. She got to get her wedding dress shopping and her airtime too. But that's probably all I would want to see her wedding dress shopping and their wedding and their honeymoon or in their like first night in the same episode. Like don't
Uh,
have us dragging this along like y'all did with the rest of the couples.
and then what will the logistics be? I mean, will they ever interact with the new couples who are so much further in the process? And do you even
Mm,
want that? Because clearly these people are going to be jaded.
girl, if there are even people left at this point.
That part. So yeah, I I want to say, oh, give him another chance to find love. But
Mhm.
even like his friend said, like what's the methodology? Why would you want to trust these people again?
Mhm. Very valid. That friend, I don't
Mm.
remember her name, but whatever her name was, she was not playing. She's like, what did they do the first time? What are they doing differently? But I think she makes a valid point because we've all commented on how whatever process they're using for the last several seasons, maybe since the New Orleans season, like whatever process they've been using hasn't been working for any of the couples. So,
And clearly the vetting is off. Even aside from them being maybe not the best matches, I think some of these people as individuals, it's questionable if they should even be on here.
yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, y'all let us know in the comments. What do y'all think about Michael maybe getting married? Not, I can't even say getting married again, just getting married, period.
Do you feel like the The experts, I think they took accountability, at least Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal, I think did. Dr.
Yeah,
Pia, she's new, so she's like, "Oh, we did the best we can with all the information." Like, girl, you haven't been through 5 seasons of failures like they have. Like,
I will say in her defense, since this was the first time, which is true, I
mhm,
think they anticipate couples at least getting married and breaking up.
true.
I don't think that I think this was a real curveball and not even just, oh, she didn't want to get married. She don't want to be seen at all.
Mhm.
So I empathize with them on that aspect. I agree the matches are not the best, clearly. So
All right. Well, I don't think there
mm,
was anything else that was left to
mm,
be said about him. But I think, listen,
mm,
he's 38. Not that that's like super old or anything like that,
mhm,
right? But he's 38. So, at this stage, I understand why he was like, okay, well, let me try it because he's probably tried a whole lot of other things.
mhm.
And, the way dating is nowadays is not the best. So he's like, I prepared myself for this and I really was ready. I could understand why he's like, let's just see.
Yeah, what do I have to lose?
And he's very specific now about what it is that he's looking for, I guess. So
And we have a preview for the next bride, so it sounds like it goes through.
yeah, she does seem very nice from the previews, but
I mean, don't they all?
they usually do. All right. So Emily and Brennan next.
Mhm.
Okay. Orange
Mm,
looks really good on Emily. Like that first scene where they were in the kitchen and she had on orange. I was like, she looks so
mhm.
cute with that
Yeah.
color on. So just
I I I think this whole season she's worn floral or pops of color. Her
hmm
fashion is good. Yeah.
yeah, she understands what works for her.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. I put that I
Oh.
like that she's setting expectations in a really gentle way. So I think she was very direct about, well, hugging is great, but this week I would really like to talk about previous relationships and how those have gone for you. Like she's very intentional about how she presents things to him and how she gets what she wants without being like, yeah, like with asserting,
Mhm.
she's asserting herself, but she's not like, you have to give me this or whatever. She
Mhm.
probably couldn't with him anyway, but I
That and I feel like she's good at controlling her frustrations because in the moment where she's like, "Oh, maybe we tried the exercise. This is how you actually put one foot in front of the other to move forward."
mm-hmm.
Not just being like, "Oh, we take it day by day, but don't do anything." And not to say I 100% agree with the whole touching exercise because I feel
Yeah,
like they're so far from that point. I think that that was a jump,
yeah.
but I would have been frustrated if in front of Dr. Pia, he's like, "Oh yeah, okay." And then and when y'all are by yourselves, he's like, "No, I'm just uncomfortable with that." Well, then why not say that in front of the expert? How is the expert supposed to realistically be able to help you if you can't be honest in front of
That's
them? So
yeah.
she handled that very well because I would have called him out.
And she said, like, the hugging is great, but I also need the communication to be there. So she's being as patient as patients can get, I think, at this point. And so
Even
I
letting him hug her, the way he hugged her, just
yeah. Uh so the next thing that they did was go on this horse ride date where he was really into Gucci, the horse,
so
and
weird.
not into
Just
Emily at all.
all the compliments of the horse, and she picked up on it. And so with him, that this is where I'm just like, okay, you're not into her, fine. But the way he was going on and on about this horse, it
Girl.
felt intentional.
Mm, I
Y'all tell me
completely
in the
agree.
compliments if y'all
No
felt like he,
compliments.
yeah, was just
The
doing the most to be like, see, I have the capacity to be emotional and give. You just
Mhm.
not gonna get it.
And
That's what I
express.
felt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. When they were sitting down, he said something about like her being a red flag. And I wanted him to say more about that because how is she a red flag? Like, is there something that you're not saying to her about her that you are sensing? And she even asked about that. Like, I'm a red flag. And he said, well, yeah. But then he went on to describe not reasons why she's a red flag, but reasons why, like, he might be a red flag because he was into her initially and now he's not. And so I was very confused by that. for someone who's like, I'm trying not to hurt her feelings, why would you say that?
And then he goes on to say, "Oh, it's hard because she says, "Oh, I'm a red flag." He's like, yeah, it's been hard to have something and then it's gone." He's like, "I don't know if it was a fizz or a spark or adrenaline." So he's saying little things here and there, but barely anything at all. And this is why she always has this bewildered look on her face, because she's trying to piece together what he's saying and trying to give him the benefit of the doubt of, oh, he's just a terrible communicator. But no, Emily girl, it's way more than that,
Very
way
much.
deeper than that.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love her facial expression. As someone who expresses herself facially, I love watching Emily's face because I feel like she expresses exactly what we're all thinking. And it's one of those things where, usually on this show, we feel like, oh, these girls don't see through what the guys are doing, or this guy might not see through what this girl is doing. But with her, it's like, no, you can tell from her face that she sees through his BS and she's just choosing not to say stuff.
Yes, kudos to her. And for him, it's like, are you not seeing it? No, he is seeing it. He's just
Yeah.
choosing to ignore it, because that red flag comment, the fact that he thought he would just set that there on the table
Right. I'm gonna just
it, and no follow up, excuse me, what's a red flag? Say it.
whole time the pot calling the kettle black.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that scene was hard.
I do love that she's saying I need to see more. I deserve more. Cause like, okay, she knows what she deserves. She knows what she needs to see. He's obviously not giving it. So I don't know. I like Emily. I think she's gonna drag through this process until the end, and it's gonna be awful to watch. But I
Mm,
think she already knows what her decision is going to become decision day.
yeah, no, she knows. She just is giving a lot of self control in how she's handling it. But as we saw as the episode progressed with the whole group dinner situation, which we could talk about later, she's getting to her wits' end. So
Yeah. Do you want to talk about them at the dinner, or do you want to talk about the dinner as a whole for
we
everybody?
can talk about the dinner as a whole.
Okay, cool. All right. So, um,
Mhm.
Becca and Austin then?
Yep.
Okay. I have quite a few thoughts on this because I'm a little confused and also not sure that I should be thinking the things that I'm thinking.
Hmm.
So, they talked about religion again, and it didn't go well. And I had this big question of who keeps bringing up religion? Like, who keeps bringing up religion if we know that it's not going to go well, or we know how this conversation is going to go. So who keeps bringing it up? And I feel like Becca probably keeps bringing it up.
1,000%. He didn't want to bring up much else other than Nintendo 64 in his hat. So we know it's her for a fact.
Yeah.
And
She
it has frustrated her that he's wanted to be in this energy of kind of goofing around and not being so serious. But at this point, they both know it's a point of contention. She's continuing to bring it up. So,
even for people who know each other for a long time, it can be an issue. So you're married at first sight and now the religion thing. But she talked about this on the after party. She
mm,
said that he was designing one of his hats, and he chose to do like a cross.
hmm.
And so, they started talking about religion from there.
They, mm,
That's how she presented it, right? And she goes, and then she jokingly said, what, it's not like you believe I'm going to hell or something because I don't believe XYZ. And it's like, was it a joke, Becca? What, were you joking, or was that like an
her way of
interesting
bringing it up
conversation?
again.
Right, exactly. And it's like, I I understand her being taken aback, like, by, oh, the person who I'm married to thinks that I'm going to hell or something like that. I can understand it. At the same time, because this is like one of the biggest teachings, because apparently what he said was, well, that's what my church taught me. He didn't say, "Yeah, I think you're going to hell for sure." He said, "That's
She fed him that. What did you say she said? Oh, it's not like you think I'm going to hell or anything.
yeah."
That's a passive aggressive way. Come, girl.
Why would you even say that? And
Looking for
granted,
trouble.
right? And so I just he said apparently even if she dies and goes to hell, he can still see himself loving her.
You gonna burn, girl.
He's,
But
he,
I still
he can see himself loving her in this lifetime. And I was like, what? This is so bizarre that these are the things that are being said. But
in his defense though, what do you even say?
what do you say? I don't know, Miosha. Maybe not that. Like, I don't whatever you say, it's not that. I wouldn't pick that one.
But I think we'll get to this point. No matter
Mhm.
what he would have said,
Yeah,
it would have been the wrong answer. I think that's the point I was trying to make. Like,
absolutely.
clearly she's confused because things aren't adding up, Becca. Which one is it?
Yeah. I
Do you
don't even
not care? You don't know if you now it's you don't believe in a heaven or hell.
right.
So then why do you care where you would think he would think that you're gonna go?
That's what bothers me. Like I don't know that it's okay for her to break down in tears and make a big fuss about him believing something that is pretty commonly believed in his religion. Even people who don't go to church like that, people who don't like they feel like they need a heaven and a hell to put people in because bad people got to go somewhere. So, is it fair for her to have this reaction and for her and Pastor Cal to try to reorient his thinking? I don't know. It was
And,
uncomfortable.
and on top of the fact, this is the woman who had so much to say about Christians who were trying to convert her.
Yeah.
But this whole episode felt like a convert Austin
Yeah.
situation. And Pastor Cal, that was just the most odd thing. So I'll say before we move on to Pastor Cal,
Yeah.
that whole scene with the tears, and even later on, she goes on to say, like, oh, well, if you think I'm gonna go to hell, this isn't gonna work for me. It felt very manipulative. I don't know for sure if that's what she intended to do
Mhm.
because she just may have just been caught up in emotion about other things, but it felt manipulative. Like, well, if you don't move on your stance, and this
Yeah.
is coming from the girl who doesn't want to be changed,
Yes.
who's also doesn't know, well, I guess Austin could be right.
Mhm.
She don't know. She claims to don't know or don't care, which I
Yeah.
after all this, I don't believe
Yeah,
fully.
she cares a little. She cares a
She
lot.
she cares a lot. And so I don't know. It just felt like she was doing too much.
It does. And that's my issue. Like, I don't have a problem with what I mean, let Austin believe what Austin believes, let Becca believe what Becca believes. I think they're just not a good pair. Eh,
And I will say, I think Austin is trying to accommodate her as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I think for her, there's some level of confusion and just things that need to be worked out internally to really understand like where she actually feels
Mhm.
because she's worried that he's going to try to change her. Maybe it's an overcorrection in that she's trying to change him too.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, but he seems to be like, well, that's you, girl. That we'll meet our maker in different times.
Yeah.
That's on you.
It was it was just odd that she seemed surprised by it. Like, if you talk to most Christians, they gonna probably say, "Oh, I believe in the virgin birth. I believe in Jesus, and I
Hmm.
believe in heaven and hell. Like, when I die, there's a resurrection." Whatever. Like,
There are certain pillars that
yes,
she clearly knows about.
she does know about it. That's why it was like she was acting like this was coming out of left field. Even I understand there's room for debate, right? So it's perfectly okay for her to say, "No, I don't believe that," or for like
Hmm.
her friend do it
Yeah.
later on. Like, there's definitely room for debate. But why are you surprised that this man who was raised in a specific type of church or whatever believes stuff that
It's
church
taught.
typically, yeah, like
It would have been odd, I think,
yeah.
for him to be like, "Oh no, you're still going to heaven," or for him to be like, "Oh yeah, we don't go anywhere." That would have been to me a
More
more odd.
surprising than
Yeah, like, "Oh well, are you
a different
Christian?"
Christian.
Yeah,
Okay,
like, what do you? These are some new age Christians that don't believe there's a hell.
yeah, because there those do exist,
Clearly, yeah. Maybe
but
she thought she got her one of those.
and there are a lot of the like, so it wouldn't be odd for her to meet one of those necessarily, but I think
Mhm.
it's just considering what we know of his background, it just why was that surprising? So yeah, I just didn't think the tears were. It's hard to say someone's tears aren't warranted, right? Because you want to show empathy, and I know that she felt
Mhm.
that deeply. I I did not understand the tears in the surprise.
And then she says, "Oh, it makes her feel less than." How can something you don't believe make you feel less than? I don't.
Yeah, I guess because it would be one thing if like you have a Christian who believes in heaven or hell, and then like another Christian who doesn't believe, because it's like, okay, we share the same faith and
Mhm.
we don't believe these things, but you don't share that faith. So I'll put it like this. There was a lot that I just couldn't comprehend, and that might
Mhm.
say more about me than her, but it was all just very interesting.
I want to get to the part of the conversation where I think they're wrapping up the talk on the couch and she's like, "Oh, and yeah, you said that you loved me jokingly." Did you catch when he rolled his eyes?
Somebody on Twitter was like, it looked like he didn't want nobody to know that.
But even the way that it was said, it's like, "Girl, you are reaching."
She's holding on to everything that he does.
Mm-mm.
Did you want to say more about Pastor Cal or
Oh yeah, that was odd. His response.
again, I didn't find it odd because I know a lot of people in that
Hmm.
space who feel the same way he does. But I like watching it, I was like, well, people gonna have a lot to say about this. And they
And
did.
see, I don't have that much experience, I guess, with people who think this way. Like in my mind, if you say you're Christian, like these are the pillars and the beliefs that people usually have.
Mhm.
I think I expect it more from people who are not pastors versus people who are pastors. Even going back a few episodes ago, where it's like, oh, well, she believes in love. And
Yeah.
it just, I would expect a pastor from what I've experienced to say, like, oh, y'all aren't equally yoked. It's a wrap. Like, it's done.
Yeah.
So that's why it's odd for me because that's what I would have expected. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, and I get that. I don't know if this is what he teaches like at his church, so maybe
mhm,
I think he's really trying to be accommodating of Becca because she does not believe.
mhm.
But it did at certain points lean towards him thinking that Austin needed to do the shift. And it's like, I don't necessarily think Austin needs to shift. I think there's just a difference here, and stop trying to make fetch happen if you know the Mean Girls movie.
Yeah. No, I agree. But yeah, that was all I had to say about Pastor Cal.
Okay.
Um, and then they go on what they do the ice skating, they watch a wedding video, they do the ice skating. Nothing much to really say about that. And then Austin talks to Becca's friend.
Hmm. So here's the thing. Being exposed to other beliefs doesn't mean that you have to believe them.
Hmm.
And so I think it's one thing to be like, oh, we're exposing Austin to there are different ways that Christians think. All Christians don't believe the same
Hmm.
thing. Or there are different ways that other religious people think based on their own religion. It's one thing to expose him, but just because I've been exposed to a lot of things, that doesn't mean that now I have to make those things my beliefs. I can be tolerant of them. I can, support that for the person who believes it 1,000%. But that doesn't mean that I now have to, like,
Take it on, yeah.
individuality is a thing. I don't have to, just take on other people's identities or other people's beliefs. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's her friend. So
so
realistically, what was she going to say?
right.
Whatever Becca believes or doesn't believe,
Mhm.
does it affect her day to day? Probably not. So I don't know. That just felt like they're trying to sway him.
Yeah. And for the record, I'm okay with how Becca believes.
Hmm.
The whole swaying thing just was very uncomfortable to watch.
I think Becca just doesn't want to be with a Christian or religious person, period, which is her right. And I think that that's fine. But I think it's a bit disingenuous to go into the process being like, oh, I'm agnostic and I'm open and I don't believe this or that or whatever. No, I think you have the way that she's acting, it seems as though she has a much harder stance than
Yeah.
what she initially portrayed,
Or maybe a
which is
harder
fine.
yeah, or maybe a harder stance than what she thought. So I think, like,
Mm,
a lot of times people go into these processes and, we're all excited to find someone who we love. We're all excited to have someone who we think is cute and who we want to come, and she
mhm,
seems to really like him. So it's probably really hard to find someone like that who you enjoy being around. And so I think a lot of people go into this process thinking, oh, let me be flexible so that I can find somebody, or go into dating period
mhm,
thinking I have to be flexible so that I can, you know,
mhm.
get more options. And it's
Yeah,
like,
increase
you
the
don't,
numbers, yeah.
right, you don't need all those options, girl. You need maybe two
All you need
people who
is,
you can,
yeah,
vet,
one ultimately.
exactly. Like, and so I think that's how she went into this, being like, oh, I'm so, because she's a flexible person in every other aspect of her life. I think maybe she's learning, or she needs to learn. Hopefully, she walks away from this process knowing I
Mhm,
either need to be with someone who is also agnostic, someone who's not religious, or someone who who's very far removed from what organized religion tells them to be
mhm.
close to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree,
All
but
right.
yeah, that was all I have
That
from
was a
them.
lot. That was
Yeah.
a lot. It's so funny how we come at the end
Oh,
and we're like, "What?"
and we still haven't even touched on the medical
Then
stuff.
oh, yeah. Right. Right.
I
Honestly, I don't think we should. I think the way that it's going, if
I mean,
I
it's
were
already a mess.
yeah, if I were Becca, I would be like, "You know what? That he doesn't need to know all that because he's not about to be around."
Yeah, I'm just shocked that this is as big of an issue. I guess because at first we didn't know about the religion thing. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
this
we
that
didn't
was a
watch the
curveball.
matchmaking special.
Mhm.
But, okay.
Yeah.
Cameron and Claire,
Cameron and Claire. Who?
they didn't have I feel like the most that they had was at the end of the episode, but I don't know with these two, Miosha. I don't know who's telling the
I
truth of
I
this.
have a theory.
Hey, let me hear it.
Okay. I could be way off. I don't know. I think initially they both went into this process. Claire was very guarded, not open, judgy, all the things we've said, from the beginning.
Okay.
I think he went in thinking he wouldn't have to put in much effort and
Mhm.
that whoever he was paired with was just going to like him off face value and that they would quickly progress, not having to do too much, not digging too deep, and that would be that. I think initially she was taken aback about just some of the odd things about him. For her, I think it was the family not being at the wedding, nowhere to be seen, her not even really knowing much, but like, man, that's odd. I
Mm,
think it was the trolling energy, and him not having to put in too much effort. The
okay.
dad story. I think a lot of things have built up over time, and there was a lot of confusion on her part in being able to articulate just some of the oddities that she was seeing. And
Yeah.
so for her, for whatever reason, her mind went to, well, oh, he's not attracted to me.
Mm.
No, I think it was something in her saw these little things that we saw became more things that just
Mhm.
didn't really paint him to be as much of a catch as he saw himself to be. And then
Okay.
I think for him, I think once he sensed that she wasn't just going to be so open and just be like, okay, and going along with everything, as
Yeah.
soon as he saw that she was pumping the brakes on all things physical, he checked out too. So I
Mm.
think she checked out because of things she was observing. I think he checked out because he's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to progress. I'm going to have to do a lot more in order to move forward. On top of like, I think from her perspective, the religion thing, the
Yeah.
reservation comment, um, and then no friends at the get together. Then she finds out that the family doesn't even know that they're married. I think
Mhm.
it's just been, she has not been able to articulate why she's not into this guy because nothing huge happened.
Yes.
It's been like a slow build of oddities with him that she wasn't able to quite put into words. And I'm not saying that she's excused because I think she nitpicks. But I think he was willing to accept all of that about her. And if she was willing to get in the sack and move things forward physically, I think he was like, oh, we'll figure out the rest on the back end.
You know what's interesting? So I fully agree with all of that, and I think it shows. I don't want to say it shows her immaturity, but maybe her
Mm,
inexperience in relationships. Because
mm,
I like what you described, like I feel like I experienced that maybe in my early 20s where it's like, oh, I can't quite put my finger on what is off. And when I
mhm,
discuss it with people, they're like, oh, maybe you just need to do this, or maybe you like I can't quite put my finger on it, but something's off. And because I can't articulate it, I feel like I need to keep trying. Like I must be,
mhm,
because I can see myself holding back. Maybe the issue is me holding back and I just need to let loose. But it always comes back around. So I think maybe her inexperience
mhm.
is showing with that. And so
You're
I
not
thought
able to quite pinpoint
what the
what
issue
it is.
is.
Also, not what, also the pressure of being on this show, not just wanting to throw in the towel. I think that also contributes to, well, let me at least keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. But I think she sensed something very early,
Early on.
but
Yeah.
wasn't maybe even able to articulate exactly what it is. And even if she did say she did call out some things, it's like, that's odd. Nobody from your family, we can't video call them, we can't do anything. um Even if she was to have voiced the concerns early, I think she would have been brushed off like, well, it's not that big of a deal, or because
Hmm.
individually these things aren't huge. But I think, like, I went through and wrote down, like, let me just like give a summary of just some odd stuff I've seen about this guy.
Yeah.
And I think what takes it to the next level was the preview and the whole heart thing.
I, you know,
How weird is that?
gosh. It's that's why that when I say like I just don't get either of them. Something she said. So two things. One, I don't think she'll even be able to articulate this maybe for like a few months. Well, it's been a
Mm,
few months since the process, so it takes some time to look back and be able to articulate these things. So it might take her a while to even be able to do that. But on the after party, she was on there and she said that there was one night where a bunch of them, from the cast were hanging out and Cameron hadn't come out with them. And so they were like, oh, maybe you just need to try this and you just need to try that. And so when she went home, according to her, she tried to initiate something physical. Sorry. She tried to initiate something physical and was turned down. She said that he said, like, ew, I can't do this right now. And so Keisha Knight was like, did he actually say ew? Or, or was it
yeah,
something else? And
mhm.
so that's where I'm just like, I don't know what's believable. Cause do we really think that Cameron would
I think he would. I think he would turn her down because I think he checked out. I
interesting?
Yeah, I think depending on when this whole scenario happened, because even with the way this episode played out, he was the one that was basically trying to force her. Well, last week he was trying to force her hand to give an answer, give an answer. Oh, well, I'm gonna go sleep in the other room.
Mhm.
Then in this episode, he based off his energy when he sat down with Orion, it's like, no, basically he's checked out. He sends a text
Mhm.
to be like, nah, I ain't
Right.
coming back home. Can't even give a phone call. So that shows his immaturity as well. So depending on when that happened, I think once he just got wind of her just not being as into him, I think he's been trying to figure out a way to also get out of this process as well.
To be Orion. I don't think he said ill though. I think that's a word she's putting in his mouth because
Oh,
she already
yeah.
doesn't think that he's attracted to her. So
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing, like with these people, I know they say there's one side, the other side, and then the truth. It has never been more true than with these two people because I could never figure out who's telling.
And I'm going to say this. I think, too, the oddities about him, she was never going to be able to look past. And I think he knew that as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, like things that he would think is like, oh, not a big deal, or oh, I'm gonna just move past. I don't think Claire would have ever been able to move past it,
Yeah.
especially with the family thing.
Oh, for sure. I don't have much to say about their talk with their friends. Like I can tell Claire and Lauren are friends, but when have Cameron and Orion? They're just looking for a reason to put these two on our screen.
And explain to me why Orion, why would you sit down with Orion? Isn't this the reservation comment, man? But you sitting down and now he's inspirational. On top of the fact that y'all are having these people sit down with two people who are recently divorced or broken up. Production. If you ever were to think like, who do we sit these people down with to give them encouragement? Like, why would you let them sit down with two people who are bitter and just broke up?
Right.
Like, they want company. They don't want to be the only ones who checked out soon. Come on.
And you can even see it at the dinner a little bit with Claire and Emily, but hopefully I remember to make that comment about, someone who's out. And it's not even that, oh, misery loves company, but it's just like maybe when you're on the other side, you can see clearly, oh yeah, this person needs
Mhm.
to get out of the situation. But yeah.
But in that scene with Orion, just to circle back real quick, what did
Mhm.
he say? Like, oh, don't just show up and be the good husband. You have to advocate for yourself. Just
How?
get this guy off our screen.
And then even Lauren and what she said, like she was like, for me, what ifs are worse. I don't agree with that. I think sometimes like uncertainty in relationships is
Mhm.
worse than what ifs. So it's like if I'm in this thing, oh, have you seen Tyler Perry's what was that movie that he did? Was it Family Reunion that Maya Angelou was in?
I can't
And
remember,
it was
child.
Blair Underwood. Oh my God, it was Blair Underwood. It was the one where
With
they
the
were
daddy's little
on.
girls?
No, it definitely
Mhm.
wasn't that. That was Idris Elba.
Oh, Idris Elba, yeah.
It's the one where they're like, on this land, you got people gyrating. It's Cicely Tyson, Maya Angelou. Oh, it's the one where she's supposed to get married to Blair Underwood, but he's abusive and she had to cook up the hot grits.
Oh, I know which one you're talking
Yeah.
about. And the mom was trying to get her to stay. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I
Okay. I
cannot
give you
remember, but I
springtime
can
in
see it.
Paris. I know, yeah, like I know everything and everyone who was in it. But there's this one line that Maya Angelou's character says, and she's like,
Mm.
love is many things, but one thing it is not is unsure. And like that has
Hmm.
always stuck with me. And so when Lauren was saying, "Oh, for me, the what ifs are the worst. The what ifs are," I'm like, no. If you're in something and it's that like uncertain, like especially a marriage like this, like obviously
Mhm.
if people have been married for some time or any whatever, if they went through the normal process
Mhm.
of getting married based on their culture, counseling would be recommended, whatever. I'm not saying people should just give up on their marriages, but like in this type of a process, I don't think that same rhetoric needs to be at play.
And they're giving advice off limited information, and they themselves aren't well equipped. And I am no therapist myself, so I'm
Okay.
not fully equipped. So
I'm
I'm
not
not
well
saying
equipped
that I
either.
am. I'm
Yeah.
just saying I know that they are not clearly by the advice that they were giving. What a mess. I don't want to see Orion or Lauren really anymore on my screen.
Yes. Even though her hair was cute because she wore
Oh
it like she
yeah,
did at the wedding.
the hair was
But
serving, but
but
that's it.
Lauren, don't let these people bring you on our screens ever again. Check out, like
Mm-mm.
clock out. You've done your part. Okay,
Okay.
so okay, I think I put down Claire needs to trust her gut and let this go because Cameron's showing more maturity in that he knows it's not going anywhere and he's wanting to step away. I don't see him just trying to quit. And
Mhm.
I think that's the rhetoric that a lot of people on this show have, like, oh, I'm quitting, I'm quitting. It's like, no, we can all see it's a train wreck, babe. Go ahead
Yeah,
and log off for me. Okay.
let it go.
Now, do you want to talk about the dinner?
Yes, let's get to this dinner. So, Claire, Cam claims that he doesn't know where Claire stands.
I can believe it because she herself said she was confused. And so if she was given that confused energy in herself,
Mhm.
I can believe that he's like, I don't know where she stands because one day she wants to work this out, and then her
Mhm.
body language is giving me another thing, or her attitude might give whatever. So I can see that he's like, I don't know where she stands, like whether she wants to continue for real, or not.
I think initially she was giving confusion. I
Mhm.
think he knows. I think he was just trying to bait her into giving a final answer.
And
And
that's
he didn't want to be the one given the game he wanted to play at the end. So we'll get to that point.
playing Russian roulette.
Um,
Because what if she said she wanted to?
how
No.
awkward.
Right.
Because he knew they both give the same answer. He
Probably.
already knew there was no
And she
confusion.
knew they both give the same answer. That's why she went through with it. Because I don't see a world where Claire wanted this marriage to work where she would go along with that game.
She was like, well, we're here. Just get it over with. Because he had already said he wasn't coming home and it had been
Right.
a few days. So what do you mean you don't know where she stands? You've shown where you stand. Like you ain't
Right.
been here,
Girl.
people.
Oh
Okay.
man. Okay. Emily and Brennan. Well, did anything happen with Becca and Austin that was interesting? Like they said really nice stuff about each other, and they were like, "But that doesn't mean we don't have problems," and da 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 da. And I don't really think anything happened much with them at the dinner, so we can skip that.
No, she asked the initial question of if you could go back and give yourself advice, what would it be? And nothing really came of that, other than Brendan skipping his turn, which we can start with that.
I just don't. First of all, can we start with how he dressed? Because the way he dressed said, "I don't care about this. I'm just showing up for a free meal." At that moment, I was like, "Yeah, this man doesn't care." Because
Mm-mm.
everybody else at least wore a wore a dress down, a button down shirt, or
Mm-hmm.
tried to work on it. Girl, he threw on this same hoodie that we've seen him in every scene. I feel like, and a different top, and called it a day. He didn't even look nice. Like he looked like
Mm-mm.
he was going to anything, not a nice dinner.
And
So
if you know, like Emily always presents herself very well. Like she isn't overly dressed, but you could tell she puts effort.
into her
As
look.
her partner, why wouldn't you want to match that same energy? It was giving, no, we ain't on the same page. This is not the same experience for either of us. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So him not answering was very, I thought it was really rude because it's like, okay, would it kill you to try? Like you're just being so dismissive, and like you can tell from her energy that that's not something that she's interested. She literally threw it to you. It was like, okay, well, we're going in this direction. So you
Mhm.
next. And you're like, "Oh, Cameron, you should answer." Why? Like at this point, you're not being a nice person. All that stuff he said a few episodes ago, "Oh, I'm just trying to be nice. I don't want to be mean. I want to be mindful of her." You're not
Who
a nice person.
not only are you not being nice, the looks that you're giving this girl.
Ugh. I was so annoyed with him. I was
Yeah,
so annoyed
that's
with
it.
him. And then when
Mm-mm.
he did answer a question, he goes, "She's really resilient." If a man calls you resilient,
And that was only after I think was it Emily?
Yeah,
Was it Claire
it was
who
either Claire
asked
or
the
Emily.
question? I think it
Claire.
was Claire who asked the question. And I think he was like, oh, Cam can go. And then Cam was like, no, you answer. Like, you have spoken up and said nothing.
Hmm.
Didn't even want to answer. Just was gonna sit there and eat his food.
That's what he came. He came for a free meal. He's what
Oh
men accuse
Lord.
women of using them for. He's using this process for free meals in a cute apartment. But yeah,
Mm-mm.
him calling her resilient, I was like, oh no, girl, you gotta run because
Mm-mm.
if you're calling me resilient as far as a relationship goes, like, okay, call me resilient because when I lost my job, I hustled and got something back.
Mm-mm.
Like call me resilient because of that. Don't call me resilient in no relationship. I never
Yeah,
want
kudos because you've been willing to put up with all my mess.
with me being mean to you, with me being unkind, with me trying to control you, even though I'm not offering you anything. Like,
And just so we're clear, it's not that we expect that Brennan wouldn't have any, issues with her that are valid or that we expect him to be all over her, or anything
right.
like that. It's literally just giving a bit of human decency and politeness. If you're going to be on our screens, don't treat this girl like this. Just don't. You having this whole energy of like, oh, I'm not gonna quit. So
And
then you're gonna make her suffer through.
it was
Mm.
like Morgan. You remember that one season with Morgan where she told Ben, what's his name? She
Ben,
was like, no, you're gonna sit through this process with me and see it. No, I'm not, girl. You're not about to torture me. Like, excuse me.
and then embarrass the both of us on national television. So for the man who cares so much about his image, this is how you decide to show up.
Child. And then when she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the bathroom," he's like, "Oh, I'll come with you." I appreciated her being like, "Oh, you definitely don't have to do that." Why was he
Mm-mm.
gonna go to the bathroom with her? Probably because he noticed that things were off and he
Oh,
wanted to
he
try to find
knew.
a way to fix it. Yeah, fix
Mm-hmm.
it or control the narrative or whatever.
Girl, get it together. Wrong,
Right.
wrong camera. Yeah, he knew. He could sense her energy. Him acting like he doesn't know. That's a lie. Everybody saw it. Come on now.
Child.
Mm-mm.
So Claire goes out, and I honestly didn't appreciate after she and Claire had that conversation when Brennan
Mm.
came up and was trying to figure out what was going on, like he didn't know. I didn't appreciate Claire being like, "Well, because she really likes you. Don't tell this man who's treating me poorly that I really like him." Like, avoid
I
the issue.
So I'll say I think if that was the extent of the conversation,
Mm,
Claire, you dropped the ball.
period.
I feel like more was said in that moment.
I hope so.
I think more was said and they took a snip. And yeah, I think more was said.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think more was said in that moment. I'm giving Claire the benefit of the doubt, girl, but don't prove me wrong.
Okay. Um, yeah, so I don't
Uh,
have any other things about the after party. Like all I had was Claire saying that she tried to sleep with Cameron and Becca
oh,
talking about what happened.
one thing I will say though, okay, I want to go back to Cameron wants them to play this game of giving an answer on a count of three if they want to stay together or not. She says separation, he says divorce. Um, silly, childish. I don't know why you would want to end your marriage in front of everyone.
Mhm.
Very weird. I think she just went along because it's like, well, we're here. Let's just move on with
It's
our
not like he's at
lives.
the house. It's not we gonna go back to the house and we can have this conversation later because he said he's not coming back.
So the part that I was like, Claire goes on, I feel like, to take full accountability.
Hmm.
In that moment, I'm like, okay, Cameron, what do you have to say for yourself?
Nothing.
Nothing. Then he follows up with this story about his dog. All
Oh my
from
God. I
years
forgot
ago.
about that.
And I just feel like, once again, a manipulation moment.
And the heart thing will be another one because remember he's talked about how when his mom left his dad's lungs collapsed. And so now he's trying to be like, oh, is it because Claire? You knew this girl for exactly one. Just cut it out.
So once again, the oddities add up.
Yeah, he's doing too much.
Claire, your spirit told you this was a no, and
Mhm.
you couldn't verbalize it or figure it out, and you did way too much nitpicking talking about this man's shorts. But When he starts to tell this story about the dog, and
Oh,
then I see the preview, absolutely not. This is the way it needed to go.
they're really milking it at this point.
Mm-mm.
Anything else?
I think that's it. Y'all tell us, do
Yeah.
we want to see another wedding? But if not, then what we gonna talk about?
Right. I do like Michael. He seems really cool. So it'll be nice to see what his personality is like and how he gels with this new woman. But I don't know. I'm surprised
Hopefully it
we
works
talked
out.
this much because I
I
didn't, watching
know.
the episode, I didn't think they gave us a lot, but
It's a snooze fest. It's because we took a break for the last 2 weeks and it's like, yeah, we might as well run our mouths for an
right.
hour.
Can y'all tell us the Tyler Perry movie? Because I feel like it was a family reunion. It wasn't a family. It was a family reunion. Y'all let us
It could
know.
have been. I know the one you're talking about because I can remember the scene with the mom. They're sitting in that front room of the house, and she like, you go walk down this aisle.
Oh man. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Mhm.
Happy New Year again, and catch y'all on the next one. Bye.
Bye.